This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, the Wanaka Museum is assuring fans of Auckland's famous giant Santa that it's not wasting away in a landfill. Locally sourced and grown native plants from the Southland Community Nursery is set to flourish across the south. And 800 tonnes of rock has been loaded at Port Greymouth, headed to Auckland, but it's just a chip off an old block. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Sophie Morris. The Wanaka Museum is assuring fans of Auckland's famous giant Santa it's not wasting away in a landfill after a video was posted on social media. In November, a 5-tonne fiberglass Santa was transported in pieces to its new home at the Wanaka Transport Museum, where it will eventually go on display.
So we found the old Santa.
The person posting this video on TikTok is unhappy to see the former 18-metre tall Santa Claus that stood on Auckland's Queen Street now languishing in what appears to be a landfill pit. But that's not the case. When the 5-tonne sculpture was hauled down to Wanaka on 2 oversized trucks in November, he was too big to store indoors, and thus carefully placed in what Jason Rhodes hopes will be a massive extension to the National Transport and Toy Museum.
It's the foundation for the next stage of the building for the museum. It's going to be a very long-winded sort of thing because, as you can see, it's not a small hole and foundation, things like that. So there's a lot of things we're still working through, but look, the bulk of the work is done. Now we've sort of got a bit more engineering behind us that we can sort of start and look forward. Just with everything at the moment, with the virus, all that, look, a lot of the big projects are all on hold at this stage. And we just want to see what's happening around the airport itself, those types of things, and just see what style of building we can sort of really put around that.
The Wanaka Museum, which bought the Santa Claus for $1, still plans to put him on display, but he first needs a new coat of paint.
What we're sort of wanting to do is keep him for posterity. It's the history behind him, you know, right from the people that sort of instigated him, built him, and the ones that have even saved him over the years, because he's had a bit of a checkered history in the last sort of few years, that type of thing. So we just want to make sure that, look, he wasn't going to end up in some rubbish dump or anything like that.
In Wanaka, the South Today.
Work is underway on Dunedin's controversial memorial to conscientious objectors. Contractors have started to remove the Albany Street Garden, which will eventually become home to the long-awaited Archibald Baxter Memorial Peace Garden. The Archibald Baxter Memorial Trust has spent more than 10 years trying to find a location after its original preference for Anzac Avenue was rejected by the Dunedin City Council. More than $500,000 was raised to help install the memorial through both private and public donations. The Peace Garden is expected to be finished by the end of March, and a ceremony to mark its completion will be held in April. A struggle to find native plants prompted Otaratara residents Chris and Brian Rance to create their own community nursery. Now locally sourced and grown, native plants from the Southland Community Nursery can be found throughout the region.
These little tortora seedlings cultivated in the Southland Community Nursery could one day contribute to the restoration of Southland's forests, such as these mature tortora trees growing at nearby Oreti Beach. The Charitable Trust Nursery also aims to educate visiting school pupils about a range of native plants in Southland.
They see what's here, they could get inspired and then go back to their place and start to plant or start to do something, put a bug hotel in or feed birds, you know. So they might get inspired, or they might then go back to their place and say, oh, that's a cabbage tree. That, you know, they now know and they can identify things at their place, whether it be their school or their home or their local park.
Located in Ototara, close to Invercargill Airport, some of the seedlings go towards restoring the small farm where it's located, turning it back into native forest, complete with a pond.
Yeah, well, we put the pond in because it increases biodiversity, and for school groups it's a really interesting thing because it brings in more birds and it brings in lots of water life. So lots of things that we do are pond studies, and children love things that are scrambling around in the water, and so, you know, it's a really good attraction for schools coming here. They can walk the tracks, they can do bush studies, they can look at native plants, they can look at insects, and they can look at pond life as well.
Relying on the help of volunteers, the charitable trust is intent on encouraging the spread of native species across Southland.
Primarily it's about producing healthy, strong native plants from plants that already grow here. So we're trying to restore and promote the fabulous Southland plants.
The nursery also sells native plants to the public as part of its fundraising activities. In Otatara, the South Today.
Queenstown Invention has been certified as an official flight data recorder by the New Zealand Civil Aviation Authority. Designed by over-the-top helicopters and called Eye in the Sky, the small all-in-one unit includes a forward-facing video camera mounted within an aircraft cabin to record flight data and the pilot's view. The project was started by the mother of James Patterson Gardner, who died when a Robinson helicopter broke up in flight in 2015. Proceeds from the sale of the device will go to a charitable trust established in James Patterson Gardner's memory. Workers at a West Coast port were kept busy recently as more than 800 tonnes of rock was loaded onto a ship and then sailed north. Port of Greymouth managers say they'd like to see more business at the once busy harbour.
The once bustling Port of Greymouth is still seeing some cargo vessels arrive now and then, including the almost 30-year-old Untitled, which has been busy loading 800 tonnes of greywacke rock to be shipped to Auckland for landscaping projects. But that's not something that happens on a regular basis.
Maybe twice a year at the most. I think last year we only took one load away, just the way things worked out of our other cargo, and when we did have spare time to come down here, the weather wasn't that good with the bar and stuff, floods in the river and whatnot, so yeah, this load here we were supposed to take away in October, and we've only just managed to get down here in January. So
Greymouth Port leader Franco Horridge would like to see other businesses also consider using the West Coast harbour for shipping.
I see any opportunity like this to prove that the Port of Greymouth is capable of doing cargo, and if there's a way of building the business, then not just for the port but more importantly for the town, it'd be fantastic.
Horridge says visiting boats will hopefully keep the port busy during the upcoming tuna fishing season.
If it's anything like last season, we had 60 plus out-of-town vessels use the port during the tuna season, which is a huge boost not only again to the port but to the town. If that happens again this season, which the indications are that it should be a good season, then that'll be great.
The Untitled made use of the outflowing Greymouth River current to turn around and head out to sea. In Greymouth, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, we hear about the marine mammals who have been visiting Dunedin, and we meet the 24-year-old shearing world record breaker.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
Welcome back. There has been an abundance of marine mammals visiting Dunedin shores over the summer, with sea and sea lions sitting noticeably up. Swimmers calling off at St Kilda Beach last week had to get out of the water after both a seal and sea lion decided to join them. The apparently playful seal joined the public by swimming between the flags and eventually swam off, only to be followed by a brief visit from a large sea lion later that afternoon. A week earlier, a young male sea lion made its way more than 25 kilometres up the swollen Tyree River to Outram Glen. Sea lions have a good grasp on navigation, and this one was expected to find its way back to sea. Yesterday, a large sea lion brought traffic to a halt on Tyree Road, south of Dunedin. By the time police arrived, a member of the public had already successfully ushered the sea lion about 150 metres along the road and back to the beach.
Good boy, keep going.
Months of training paid off for a southern shearer as she toppled a solo woman's 9-hour world shearing record. 24-year-old Megan Whitehead's day began around sunrise and finished just before sunset as she took on the challenge.
Gore shearer Megan Whitehead putting her back into an attempt to beat the 9-hour women's solo shearing world record. A sizable crowd on hand to witness the attempt, cheering her on throughout the day. The 24-year-old had aimed to shear a sheep every 46 seconds, to set the record at 700 sheep shorn over a 9-hour period. In the end, Megan Whitehead bettered Emily Welch's 13-year solo women's record of 648 lambs after shearing 661 during 9 hours at Croydon Bush, near Gore. In Gore, the South Today.
And now we continue our week-long series looking at events that took place over the Christmas holidays. Rodeos are a regular fixture in rural towns over the summer, but not all people are happy with the way animals are treated. The South Today got to interview those both for and against the Wanaka Rodeo.
Youngsters and adults alike rode bulls at the annual Wanaka Rodeo in front of about 3,000 enthusiastic spectators. But not everyone was so happy about the event, with Queenstown Vegan Society Director Kate Gollop planning a protest at the main gates.
We actually see the whole rodeo as an issue. The use of the animals in there full stop to us is a problem. Of course, the most spoken thing is the calf roping. Generally, the New Zealand public have a real issue with that, and we completely understand why that would be seen as the worst element of it, because it is using essentially a baby animal who's not even properly formed yet and whose body can't take the pressure of a rope being flung around his neck and whipped backwards.
New Zealand Rodeo Cowboys Association President Lyle Cox says the events are a major fundraising opportunity for rural communities.
In some places like Lawrence, it's their biggest event of the year. The Lions clubs, Methven, they take a lot of money from the working the gate and working for the club, and they put that right back into the community. And you've got to question what people like, the Vegan Society and some of the other anti-rodeo groups actually put into these small communities throughout the country. I'd suggest not very much.
The Wanaka Rodeo is now in its 58th year, with 72-year-old Pat McCarthy of Chateau Creek having competed in nearly all of them. He says the sport of rodeo has deep historical roots in rural New Zealand.
Rodeo is a heritage sport, and every event in rodeo goes back to who we were years ago and how this country was developed. And I'm very proud to be part of that heritage sport that we can look back on and thank our forefathers and all the rest for what they did and how they did it.
But Gollop says the way animals are treated in rodeos would be illegal in many other circumstances.
But if we look at the farming industries, if we were to witness footage of these things happening on a farm, those people would be absolutely held under the law for those actions. It's not normal behaviour to be using animals in entertainment in any purpose. And I think we have to look at the broader picture in that, rather than just saying, oh, well, these accidents happen in sports. These animals aren't willing contestants in a sport.
Rodeos are closely monitored by the Ministry for Primary Industries and the SPCA. In Wanaka, the South Today.
After the break on the South Today, a new summer attraction has been helping people in central Otago cool off, and we check out tomorrow's weather.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Welcome to Campbell Menswear. Our 3 stores have no shortage of stock. Check these out. We've got the Dunedin print t-shirts. Check out our zillions of short sleeve shirts. These are crackers. They iron themselves in the wash. Iron cheater they're called. And there's some really cool polo shirts. Look at all the bright colours. And of course there's no shortage of shorts. This is always one of our brightest corners. Our long sleeve fashion shirts. Jeans, casual trousers, dress trousers, you name it, we have you covered.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So if you're shopping for your family or yourself, come and see Alex Campbell Menswear stores. We're full of stock.
Risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Welcome back. During the summer, a new attraction has been helping people in central Otago cool off while making a splash of its own. The owner of Central Otago's newest attraction says she's turning people away because her Kiwi water park is so popular. Queenstown businesswoman Emily Rutherford opened the aquatic playground on the shores of Lake Dunstan this summer and says online bookings for the noon session are regularly sold out. The park features 10,000 square metres of inflatable equipment anchored to the lake floor. It's open 7 days a week, taking a maximum of 100 people at each session. Rutherford says due to demand, the park was not accepting any private or corporate bookings until the end of the school holidays. The park is due to close on March 31st, then reopen in December. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. The Wanaka Museum is assuring fans of Auckland's famous giant Santa it's not wasting away in a landfill following a social media post. Locally sourced and grown native plants from the Southland Community Nursery are set to flourish across the south. And 800 tonnes of rock has been loaded at Port Greymouth headed to Auckland, but it's just to chip off an old block. And now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Hayden.
Good evening, Sophie. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. Been a busy day so far. What's the news? Housing again. So a follow-up to this morning's lead story about the Dunedin City Council trying to ease some of its regulations around housing, providing hopefully another 2,500 houses. So we talked to property developers today. So of course the big question is not only does the council allow some of these houses to be built, but how are we going to get them built and who's going to build them? So, and interesting, they're sort of expressing some scepticism, I think, it would be fair to say, talking about obviously it's a good thing in theory, but they are very keen to see the sort of reality of the situation. So I'm keen to read this story myself and find out more about what they think about how things are going to happen. Now, a huge day tomorrow, obviously, in the United States of America, and as a result, the world really will be watching. Joe Biden will be inaugurated as the next President of the United States. Now, it starts quite early in the morning New Zealand time, 5 o'clock, but it looks like at about 9 o'clock in the morning our time it'll all be happening. So perfect timing for people to grab the ADT and some breakfast, and so we'll have a bit of a piece in the paper tomorrow talking about the inauguration and what people can expect to see. It's all happening.
Yep.
A lovely yarn from down in Southland about a 5-year-old hero. A great little yarn. His family's car had crashed. I think his mother was trapped in the car, couldn't get out. And this wee fella, in bare feet no less, ran a kilometre on a gravel road to get help for his family. I think his wee sister was also at the crash site. So lovely photo and a really nice yarn on a pint-sized hero. Who's not going to enjoy that story? But less happy in Invercargill, some superannuitants. The Invercargill City Council is hiking up their rent for sort of pensioner units. So we talked to some of those people about their concerns. And great news in Dunedin, if you're a fan of family-friendly restaurants, the Cobb & Co confirming there at the railway station they are going to be back in business, having closed after lockdown, back in business next month, I think. So I might just pop along there myself and
get a traffic light.
Get a traffic light and remind myself of what life was like when I was a kid. So
lovely.
That'll be good news for lots of people. Heaps of other good stuff in the paper too.
Great, thank you, Hayden. And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, taken of threatening skies over Dunedin. Looking at the situation, a strong and very cold southwesterly airflow will ease only slowly tomorrow, with further showers about the coasts, but clearing weather inland. Weather should remain fine over the weekend and become milder. Looking at the northwest, rain is expected with 17 degrees in Greymouth and 16 in Westport. On the eastern side, showers for Nelson with 19 degrees and partial cloud for Blenheim with 21. Down the east coast, rain and 17 degrees in Kaikoura, cloud and 19 degrees in Christchurch and scattered showers and 18 in Ashburton. To the southern towns, strong southwesterlies, showers and 11 degrees for the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore. To central, Gusty southwesterlies becoming fine and 13 degrees for Wanaka and Queenstown, 14 degrees for Alexandra, and strong southwesterlies, showers and 11 degrees in Te Anau. To the northern towns, fresh southwesterlies and a few showers on the coast with 15 degrees in Timaru and Oamaru. Inland, gusty southwesterlies becoming fine with 14 degrees for Twizel and Amarama. In Dunedin, showers tonight with gusty southwesterlies and a low of 9. Cloudy with frequent squally showers tomorrow and some hail likely. Cold with strong gusty southwesterlies, possibly near gale force on exposed coasts. Showers clearing during the evening and winds decreasing at night. A high of 13 and a low of 8. Mostly fine on Friday with sunny periods, some cloud and moderate west to southwesterly winds. A high of 16 and a low of 8. And in Invercargill, showers and strong southwest winds tonight with a low of 5. Strong gusty southwesterlies tomorrow with frequent showers, some squally with hail likely. Showers clearing tomorrow night and winds decreasing, a high of 10 and a low of 6. Mostly cloudy on Friday with a risk of scattered showers and fresh gusty cool southwesterlies, a high of 14 and a low of 7. That's all for our news this Wednesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz or follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.